Eyewitness News presents Newsmakers with your hosts Jane Ann Bugda and Andy Mahalchik.
Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda.
And I'm Andy Mahalchik. As pandemic restrictions ease, many of us are beginning to venture out and about traveling once again. And we are encountering new rules of the road and summer construction.
We are joined today by representatives of PennDOT. We have a full agenda. I guess you could say we have a lot of road to cover. So we'll introduce you to our guests, and our conversation begins when this edition of Newsmakers returns right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik. And the pandemic restrictions are easing, and we're starting to go out and about. Starting to see a lot of travel. Andy, I know you're out on the road a lot too, covering stories, and you've seen an increase.
What a difference a year can make. Of course, with COVID-19 last year, quite literally, we all know this, it was like a ghost town in many places we drove, just very few people out and about. That's changing in a good way this year because the pandemic now hopefully is moving in our rearview mirror.
But what we're seeing is that we're getting back on the road, and we may need a refresher course. So we're calling on our friends from PennDOT to join us today to talk a little bit about some new rules of the road, to talk about everyone's favorite season, construction season during the summer.
Yippee! Construction season.
And Andy and I are joined by Richard Roman. He is the District Executive for District 4, and Jessica Ruddy. She's the Community Relations Coordinator for District 4, both from PennDOT. We want to thank you for joining us
Welcome.
today. You help us out throughout the year with many stories. Never a dull moment in your job because there's always something going on. Let's get started, though, by talking a little bit about, you represent District 4. Tell us, what is District 4? What areas do you cover?
Well, first, Andy and Jane Ann, thanks for having us on today to talk all things PennDOT. We're grateful to do it. PennDOT District 4 is one of 11 PennDOT districts that the state is broken out into, and we are in the northeast corner of the state. We cover Lackawanna County, Luzerne, Susquehanna, Wyoming, Wayne, and Pike. And throughout those 6 counties, we have about 800 people in all from design, construction, maintenance, and operations to cover 4,000 miles of roads and 2,100 bridges across those 6 counties, excuse me. We have a budget roughly of $350 million in federal and state transportation funding. And our job is to do the projects from designing large interstate projects to filling potholes, putting up signs, line painting, doing guide rail upgrades to roads that have 25 to 50 cars per day, and maintaining those roads and doing the projects and all things as it relates to surface transportation. So we have, like I said, a very large staff across these 6 counties, and our job is to serve the traveling public to make sure that the roads are safe and passable, reliable, and maintainable, not only on beautiful days like here in Pennsylvania, but also in the fall of the year and the winter time of the year as well.
And it's interesting, we joke around a little bit about, yay, it's construction season, but everyone likes a smooth road or a nice new built bridge, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's no pixie dust here. It's got to be done. I mean, the work has to be done. So sometimes people will complain about a road. I hear on the road all the time. But then when the construction starts, they say, boy, we have delays. Well, that's what has to be done. I mean, is that sort of a dynamic that you guys see also? I mean, you hear complaints, but the work's got to be done somewhere and somehow.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, if there was pixie dust, that's all I would do is drive around and sprinkle it all over the place. But to me, it takes a lot of hard work and effort by our staff to do all the design work and coordination, to make sure that contracts are properly in place, that budgets are in place, that we're able to do and projects safely to make sure that we could construct them. And stuff in transportation, if you will, is not cheap. It's very expensive. It's labor intensive, material intensive. You need a lot of big equipment to do a lot of bridge work and paving projects. And there's a lot of blocking and tackling that has to go on before you see that smooth road. And we do our best to limit our impacts to the traveling public. We do a lot more work at night now than we ever did. We look to do things on Sunday mornings and weekends and really accelerate projects to the best of our ability. But there's just those times where we have to do a project in the middle of the day while people are commuting to and from work and school and other activities. And it takes time. It takes time to take care of the network. It takes time to handle emergencies and deal with things that come our way. But we really do our best to not impact the traveling public. But sometimes we just have no choice other than to do that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the bigger construction projects that are underway this summer. What are we looking at right now in District 4?
PennDOT has dozens of projects taking place in northeastern Pennsylvania. Most notably is our Twin Bridges project in Lackawanna County. It's a $113 million project. It is the replacement of 2 mainline bridges carrying Interstate 84 eastbound and westbound over the Roaring Brook and the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad. It also encompasses the reconfiguration of Exit 2. So when you first get onto Interstate 380, on your right, you'll see Exit 1, which is Tige Street, but then Exit 2 is on your left-hand side to go to Elmhurst. It's for State Route 435. We're going to reconfigure that with a more conventional right-hand exit because most times, as you know, when you're trying to pass vehicles, you're going into the left lane. In this case, it's for an exit. So we're going to get that into a more conventional right-hand exit.
And what about if in Luzerne County, Lackawanna County? Let's go to Luzerne now. What are some projects there that people can expect to see this summer construction season starting?
We have a lot of projects throughout the entire district. We're doing a reconstruction of Interstate 84 in Pike and Wayne counties. We're doing Interstate 81 north and south from New Milford up to Great Bend, a resurfacing project, which is an interim fix until we start the large bridge construction project in the coming years. We have a lot of maintenance projects all over the district, whether it be pothole patching. It's a full plan of maintenance activities, including seal coating, crack sealing, pothole patching. We're doing mowing and brushing, and of course, litter control. That was a big topic for us this year.
And I know that PennDOT every week sends out an email letting people know what projects are underway so you can plan around driving in your ventures out and about. So if somebody wants to, they can always sign up for the PennDOT newsletter not newsletter, but I guess the road work schedule to see what's going on.
Absolutely. If they go on to penndot.gov, they can also go on www.511pa.com. And if you'd like to check out the projects that we have going on, you could go to www.project.penndot.gov. And if you're going on vacation or you're going to be traveling, it's always great resources to get on there and see what's going on. You could see traffic cameras, traffic alerts, weather emergencies. There's a host of information out there.
Richard and Jessica, I know for a lot of years we would cover every year, or they announced a 10-year construction plan in a district. Does that still exist? Does that plan? It's like a wish list. If I remember correctly, it was a wish list for projects. There was no guarantee they were going to be done, but people could lobby for them. Is there such a 10-year project anymore, a list?
Yes, Andy, there is still a list. We do a lot of long-range planning here at the department. There are such things as a 20-year plan, and then there's also the 12-year plan. And that is the list I think that you're referring to. And we break that 12-year plan into 3 4-year segments, which we call the TIP, or Transportation Improvement Program. And that's where those projects go from a wish list to being programmed, gone through our process, and ultimately into construction. So every 4 years, we try to complete that list and then move on to the second 4 and then the next 4. And we're constantly updating that list based on revenues, based on issues with delivering projects. So that still exists. The list is much longer than our budget is big. So there are still some things that shift from year to year because of funding and the nature of federal and state transportation funding, but that still exists. And it's something that we work with our partners at the planning organization and my staff in the district, plus staff from Federal Highway Administration that oversees a lot of the federal funding programs here in Pennsylvania.
Well, one of the hot topics that we've been covering is the proposal to toll some of the bridges. So can you expand on that a little bit and explain why and what's the latest?
Sure. One of the things that we're seeing in not only in Pennsylvania but across the country is declining transportation revenues. Some of that was brought on by COVID, but a lot of it is we are using and consuming less gas. Our vehicles are more fuel efficient. People are working from home, as we've seen over the last 14 months, and travel patterns are changing. And our budget is largely based on gas tax revenue. 74% of the revenue that comes to the department comes through a gas tax. So if we consume less gas tax, we receive less transportation revenue. So this administration from the governor and our secretary have developed what's called the Alternative Funding Office. And many states are doing this across the country, where they're looking at different ways to fund transportation other than us consuming gas. Because what we're seeing is the rise and expansion of electrified vehicles and highly efficient vehicles. And those are vehicles that are still going to use our system. They're still going to need lines painted and potholes repaired and snow plowed off the roadway. But they won't be going to the gas station as much, paying gas tax. So a lot of states are looking at it, and we're also. And one of the things that came out from the Alternative Funding Office is looking at tolling large interstate bridges to help offset the cost of those bridges. A lot of interstate projects are very expensive, and large river crossings like the ones that are proposed for the two of our bridges in District 4 are very large projects, and the more we could offset the cost of those, that means we could do other projects within the area. So in District 4, we have 2 bridges that are proposed to be tolling. Across the Commonwealth, there are 9. We have one on Interstate 80 in western Luzerne County over the Nescapec Creek, and then we have Interstate 81 in Susquehanna County towards the New York State border. And that's the 81 job over the Susquehanna River. That project is a $150 to $200 million project. The project in Luzerne County is a $40 to $70 million project. And we're examining through the office in Harrisburg the potential use of tolls on those bridges to generate revenue and income to do that project, to maintain that bridge, and if there's money left over, to do projects in the area. So we are taking a serious look at ways to fund transportation beyond just the consumption of fossil fuels, gasoline. And the first one out the gate is tolling. And we are doing a lot of public outreach. I've done a lot of presentations to industry and legislators and anybody who really wants to hear it. I'd be happy to talk about it, because we have to do something. What we're seeing from just the geopolitical type things across our country, General Motors has announced that by 2035, all of their fleet will be electric vehicles. Other large manufacturers, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Ford, they're all moving towards electric vehicles that will not be using gas to move them. And we have to come up with another solution. And I think we have time, because it's roughly 12 to 15 years away, but that's coming. Just the other day, I saw a commercial for an electric Ford F-150 pickup truck. And that is a very popular vehicle. And if Ford could make that work, they are going to be ubiquitous and all over the place. And that's great for our personal economy, because we'll be using less fuel, but it's not going to be great for the transportation economy, because right now, based on our laws in the state and in the federal government, it's based on the consumption of based on the consumption of gas.
And Richard, you make a good point, though. I saw that same commercial. I'm a truck guy. I like a Ram. All the trucks are cool. I'm a big Mopar guy. But I saw the F-150, and you don't think of, at least in my perception, a big truck like that, electric, being able to do what a gasoline or diesel does. So it really struck me. Like, I said, wow, that's amazing.
And you know what's interesting, Andy, is for years now, a lot of people have been researching autonomous vehicles and vehicles that drive themselves and connected and autonomous activities. But it seems over the last 2 years, And whether that's through Tesla or other types of research at colleges and universities, it seems like the electric vehicle is really coming more to the forefront, above and beyond autonomous and interconnected vehicles. And to me, when I saw that Ford commercial, whether it's Ford or GM, it doesn't matter to me, but if they could monetize that truck, that will be the truck that takes us in through the rest of this century, and it will not use gas. And if it could haul what people need to haul, and if it could give the power that people are used to, they have changed the dynamic of what you and I know from having a car and driving it and going to the gas station and filling up. So for me, the way we fund transportation, whether we like it or not, is changing. And I think this administration and our secretary and others are starting that conversation to say, we have to change the way we collect that revenue. And I know it's a tax, and I know it's emotional to a lot of people, myself included, because we all pay taxes, but we have to come up with a better way, a more efficient way to collect revenue for transportation, or our system is just going to get worse and worse as we see receipts coming in less and less each year.
Okay, Jessica and Richard, I've noticed, for example, down near the junction of Interstate 80 and 81, Route 940 in Humboldt, the last year and a half or so, guide rails or those cables being put in the grassy medians. And I know in those areas I've covered some head-on collisions. Are we seeing that around the state, around the area? And what's the reason for that? In other words, I've seen these in the median areas. Is that to prevent crashes, that head-on crashes type thing?
Yeah, Andy, what that is, it's called cable median guide rail, and that's what we put in between both lanes of opposing traffic, and that's to keep people from crossing over to median, going into the other lane, and really staving off a head-on collision. Cable median guide rail has been put across the state for the last 8 to 10 years. We really put it in locations where crossover accidents are there, and there's a great potential for it. And that cable guide rail is highly engineered, and it's placed and put under tension, and I have seen it stop a tractor and trailer from crossing over into the median into another lane, and in a way saving a major accident and possibly people's lives. So you'll see a lot more of that in our median, and that's the place for it, and that's where it will keep people safe. But that's something where we're using new technology to put on our roadways to help people be safe.
And what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss the Move Over law and to talk a little bit about some of the other plans that PennDOT has for us down the road. You are watching Newsmakers. You can find information on today's show on pahomepage.com. We're under the Newsmakers link, and if you indulge Andy and I a little bit, we are proud. We recently won a Keystone Media Award took first place in the state for our Newsmakers program. Andy, our director, Matt Gronsky, and the team here, so we're very proud of that. That joins our 3 Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasting Awards for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Jane Ann Bugda along with Andy Mahalchik, and we are talking with representatives from PennDOT. We're with Rich Roman today and Jessica Ruddy. And one of the main concerns on the roadway, of course, is safety and safety of your workers, the PennDOT workers. So let's talk a little bit about that. You know, when you're in a construction zone and you're going through, stress the importance of people slowing down. I mean, this is somebody's life out there, their job, but you know, I know we get frustrated, but expound a little bit about the safety for the workers.
Sure, yeah. Work zones are very dangerous. We have crews working close to the roadways. There's unexpected conditions. We have changing lanes, and unexpected things can happen at any point in time. But when the cars are all, you know, they're moving too quickly through a work zone, or they're not paying attention, distracted driving is a big problem. We need people to pay attention, to make sure to keep enough distance between your car and other people's cars, and just expect the unexpected. A few weeks ago, unfortunately, we had an incident with one of our employees getting struck in a work zone. and he has a long recovery now. So we need people to put the phone down, pay attention, go at or below the speed limit that is in the work zone.
And people are injured. How many workers are injured every year?
Well, in 2020, there was 1,400 work zone crashes, and that resulted in 15 fatalities, whether it be an employee or a motorist. Since 1970, PennDOT has sadly lost 89 workers, and since 1940, the Turnpike has lost 45. Last year, 55 state police vehicles were struck during traffic stops. So it's very important that you pay attention, make sure that you're alert, and know what the speed limit is, and keep that distance between yourself and another vehicle.
Now let's talk, if we can, folks, about the move over law, rebranded from steer clear law. What's that all about? That's about first responders. Explain that and what you want people to know about it.
Right. The move over law began in April of this year. It requires drivers approaching an emergency response area to merge into a lane further away from the scene. If you're not able to move over, you are required to reduce your speed by 20 miles per hour of the posted speed limit. This move over law in April also created a point system. It imposed 2 points if you are found guilty of not abiding by it. There's also fines from $500 up to $10,000, and you could possibly lose your license after the third offense.
And we're looking at some of a dramatization of the move over law, and we're showing a lot of the different things that people see, driving behind a PennDOT truck or when you get into the construction zone. And as you mentioned, you do a lot of the work during the day. And is there less traffic at night, and why don't you do night projects? I know you do night projects, but why not more night projects?
We do night projects. As you said, you know this, but I don't think that there are a lot of people that actually realize it, because you're home sleeping in bed. Sometimes the projects don't start till 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. They go till 6 in the morning before you're back out there. We do as much as we can at night, but we do need to be aware of the fact that, even work at night is dangerous. Cars are more apt not to see someone in the road, maybe not see a sign. We try to do as much work at night as possible.
I could tell you, just on a personal note, we're from covering stories for decades here, and a lot of times our stories lead us to the highways, whether it be a crash or construction or just to be on the side of the highway with our safety vest, that kind of thing. You don't realize, most people I don't think realize, when you're driving in a car, it's like slow motion. You're going 55, 60 miles an hour, and probably more faster than that. But when you're staying along that side of the highway, that car is it's just like a flash. You don't have time to react or jump or get out of the way. So if somebody's distracted driving or is heading toward your workers out there, they have very little chance to get out of the way. It's just too fast.
Yeah,
Yes,
and the size and sorry, Jess, and the size and speed of vehicles. When you see a tractor and trailer that's loaded, that's 80,000 pounds moving at 60 to 65 miles per hour, and when that strikes a human, we know what happens, and that's why we tell people to just slow down. I know we're all late at times, and we all need to be somewhere, and it's important. But we ask that you give us a little bit of leeway to get those roads done, because if there's an accident that happens, there's no more work being done that day or for maybe the rest of the week, and things get delayed, because now we're getting into accident investigations and causal effects and all the things that go on. So if we could just reduce our speed and be attentive while we're driving. And Andy, you hit it on the head. When you're driving a 5,000 pound car, which the average car is about that, doing 65 miles an hour, that's like a rocket when you're just standing still and it goes by you. And we don't win when we're against that as people.
And I always tell,
I never want to see anybody get hit or even have to jump out of the way of a moving vehicle.
and we've covered our share of tragedies, sad to report. And I always look at it this way. Just think if that was your mom, your dad, your brother, your neighbor. Would you slow down? Sure you would. These are people with families who count on them. So on a personal note, just slow it down out there. Slow it down.
We have under 2 minutes left, and I just want to ask this question because we don't want to rush the seasons, but when do you start preparing for winter?
You know what, Jane Ann, we never stop. I have a saying here in District 4 with our maintenance staff, and it's simple, that winter is coming. No matter what time of year it is, next winter is coming. And we already have received salt for next winter. We're already starting to align how much people we need for next winter, and starting training. Usually around right after the 4th of July, we begin official meetings to see what we're going to improve upon. But yeah, next winter is coming. And even when we're in next winter, the next winter is coming.
Coming
So,
too, right? So
yeah,
just continuous, right?
It is. It's to me, it's the most important thing that PennDOT does. And I think PennDOT does a lot of important things. But when you look on the impacts that it has with the public and schools and work and on the news.
And we want to thank, we got to interrupt you, we have to wrap it up, but Rich and Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today and for helping keep our roads safe and keep us moving throughout the year. For Andy Mahalchik and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Jane Ann Bugda. Thank you for making Newsmakers part of your day. You can find information on this show on pahomepage.com or under the Newsmakers link, and there you'll find information on keeping up to date with PennDOT and all the constructions.
Slow it down in construction zones. Slow it down.